Welcome back, you fetid pieces of garbage. Today we're jumping back 1 year to witness the controversial 1994 Mr. Olympia. You might have guessed it from the title, and it's true. I'm here to destroy the myth that Shawn Ray was robbed of his victory at the 1994 Olympia, and instead I will argue that Kevin was robbed of a silver Sandow medal. This is also relevant in the controversy that aroused these days for the scoring of the posing round at the Arnold Classic, since in this occasion, the posing round was where Shawn was able to gain a lot of ground. So, without any further ado, let's get it on. Footage is courtesy of Chris Cormier again, check out his Instagram. And this is the first call-out in the muscularity round, with Dorian Yates in the center, Shawn Ray on one side and Kevin on the other. The camera zooms in quite often, so most of the poses will be hard to judge, but this HD footage will be a great tool to really test the conditioning of the athletes. And from the back we can establish that Dorian dominates the field with size and conditioning. For the front double biceps, the cameraman rushes through and goes directly to Kevin. And I'm impressed with him. If you looked at his 1995 form, his taper was kinda off, and his torso looked elongated and his biceps flat, but this time, hell no. Look at that. Look at the peakiness of the biceps, the flow and the taper. His torso doesn't even look that elongated. He looks pretty crisp and conditioned. And when we see the photos, you will have a clearer idea of what I mean. Here they are. In the first one, there is Dorian Yates with Kevin, and I'm giving it to Kevin 100%. The taper, the arms, the quads all look better. From a muscularity and conditioning and balance standpoint, Dorian is ahead, but Kevin has all the tools to beat him in this pose. I couldn't find a direct comparison with Shawn Ray, but let's assume he wins the pose based on previous shows. Front lat spread, and look at that. I just wanted to pause there. Look at how massive Dorian's torso looks. The teres major, the lats, the forearms, the pecs, even the arms to a lesser extent, they all look enormous. And he looks super wide and really impressive. We'll see better in the pictures later, but if you admired enough, let's go on. Here's Kevin. I like him in this pose too. He has some great delts that really help cap his frame and make him look wider. Also his gargantuan arms really help to accentuate that effect. His lats and teres major are not as prominent, and his waist is thin enough. He has an asymmetrical pec, but it's a minor flaw in this pose. So, we just saw how good they looked in video. Let's see how they look in the pictures. And it's really a massacre. Even if Dorian is slightly tilted, he is slaying the other two with size and conditioning. He has a better taper. He has way better lats, way better calves and forearms. His delts cap his frame off, and he is the widest. Shawn Ray is third. He looks super narrow with an awkward execution, the smallest calves, and in general he is the smallest in this pose. Kevin, as I said, looks good taper, wide enough, really good quads, and decent calves. So he is a pretty solid second in this pose. We can see the side chest accurately. We can make a clear statement about Dorian's advantage in thickness, in the pecs, and in general. And we can make a statement about conditioning. Look at how vascular he looks, the striations in the pecs and the arms. Overall, way ahead of the other two guys. And this reminds me of what Dorian said about the 1994 Mr. Olympia. You can't punish somebody for not being at their best shape if nobody is good enough to beat them. And that is what most Dorianators fail to do. Which is remember that neither Shawn nor Kevin were good enough in this show to beat him. Shawn was in great conditioning here, but Dorian was still harder, drier, bigger, and with a better structure. And we can see it in the side chest like any other pose. Let's see pictures to confirm what I just said. Yes, it's a total blowout. Even if Kevin looks really aesthetic, as a statue with the defined obliques, the super round of full shoulders and arms, Dorian defeats him with sheer pectoral thickness, ribcage arch, hamstrings, front to side, and calves, and the complete imbalance developed. Shawn Ray is independent running, his torso looks super elongated, his arms too short, his pecs don't look that thick, his calves are way too small, so it's Dorian first, Kevin second, and Shawn third. Let's go on. Now we will go to the back poses and we will be able to appreciate even more Dorian's dominance in this show. Stop right there. This is the moment of truth for conditioning, and Dorian is ridiculing the other two. From the glutes to the lower back, to the hamstrings, to the calves, the traps, and the mid-back area, even the triceps horseshoe and forearms are way more vascular and defined than either Shawn's or Kevin's. And as Roger Schwab said, he has too much back to be even compared. So it's no point in doing it. And we zoom into the back double biceps. We can see the other two, but we can see really nice things about Dorian, the great definition, and the lower back traps, the gargantuan delts, the defined rhomboids, and as I said, the Christmas tree. But we can also see Dorian's greatest weakness, the tanning. It's awful. His skin looks like pig skin, and this hurt him under stage light, as his details can be somewhat lost. Look at that. It's too shiny. It's really too shiny. And it's really not a good look for him. But other than that, I can't really criticize him. The bicep tear is slightly visible, but not too much to really hurt him in a significant way in this pose. So, to recap, incredible definition in the back, great delts, great forearms, one slight tear in the bicep, and other than that, virtually unbeatable. We can see the thickness slightly from this angle. And again, look at that Christmas tree. And the thickness of the back. This is why Shawn's rear lat spread never impressed me. Even though he has a great back in general and a great back double biceps, he has a slight asymmetry going on due to the execution. He sits in one leg way too high, so he has one shoulder at a lower level than the other, and he is super narrow. His taper doesn't look that good, and this really will hurt him, and you will see in the picture comparisons. Now, I grouped both back comparisons into one. So, in the first one, it's the back double biceps, and he's really no match for both of these guys. He's crushing them. In this first pic, which is slightly taken from the side, he is murdering them with the thickness of the back, the conditioning, the details, even the glutes. Yeah, Shawn is flexing them harder, but no match for Dorian. Shawn looks really good, very detailed, good proportions, the arms are not too big, he has comparable forearms, his delts are on the small side, but they're really detailed. I like him. And the second one, it's a straight-on shot with Dorian and Shawn, and it's even more of a massacre. Dorian is way too hard and detailed for Shawn to even consider beating him in this one. Even though he looks great, Dorian is simply way too much for him from the rear. And we go to the back, the lat spread, and in this first one we can see, even if Dorian is slightly tilted, that he is the widest, even if Kevin is stepping like 3 feet towards the camera. And we can see that his back is the densest, and he has the best traps, calves, and his hamstrings are almost the best. I slightly prefer Kevin's here. And in this one, I'd go with Dorian first, Kevin second, and Shawn third. There is a second comparison I have. This is in color. Kevin is stepping forward way too much, but we can see still what we saw before, that Dorian's back is way bigger, thicker, denser, and his calves are way better to add. Shawn's taper is really off. I mentioned it before. I don't really like him in this pose. He has a thick back, but he doesn't have a proper V-taper when seen from the rear. And it's strange for a man with such a small waist to have practically no taper from the rear. But that's what it is. Let's get it on with the video. And it's the side triceps. Again, I want to appreciate Dorian's conditioning and size. Look at how extremely vascular and hard he looks in the delts, that vein that goes all the way from the delt to the forearm, the defined abs, the thin skin on the leg. Even Shawn looks soft by comparison. He is very detailed, has some nice vascularity here and there, and he has extremely well-defined abs, but no match for Dorian's conditioning. It's pretty apparent here. Even Kevin, he looks super raw and full, slightly less conditioned than Shawn, I would say, but it's still really good. So, we go to the pictures now, and this is Shawn last prayer. Because if he doesn't win this one, he doesn't deserve the muscularity round. And it's pretty apparent he doesn't. Dorian's victory isn't even in the question, as I mentioned. From the side, he's pretty much unbeatable. Even if Kevin has better delts and triceps, he doesn't have the same level of thickness and conditioning. He really looks soft by comparison, even if very detailed. Shawn doesn't even stand a prayer in this pose. He looks good with his nice horseshoe and ripped midsection, but he's too soft and small for Dorian and too soft and unimpressive for Kevin. You can see the difference in the triceps. He has the least impressive triceps and worst balanced side leg. So I don't know how could he win the muscularity round if he is already giving 4 poses to Kevin. I don't get it. He might be more conditioned, yes, but I don't think that's nearly enough. Let's move on with the footage, shall we? Now it's the abs and thighs. I wanted to pause there. Look it out. His gut is not that prominent, and his quads are ripped, his calf humongous. Again, I don't see a big problem with Dorian here. Even from the side, his gut is not apparent and prominent. He is simply way ahead of the other two in terms of conditioning, and this is enough, for me at least, to crown him as an easy winner for this contest. Now let's see the pics to see how Dorian fares there in comparison to Shawn and Kevin. And I gotta admit, I couldn't find a more flattering picture of Kevin or Shawn, but that's what it is. You go search on the internet for a better pic. I couldn't find one. So aside from that, look at how ripped Dorian's abs are and how good his tapers is. Really miles better than Shawn's, which is almost non-existent. Yeah, he has maybe more defined abs, rather more shapely abs, but because Dorian's are so ripped it's not even funny. In this pic, yeah, he hasn't fully flexed the quad. I'm talking about Shawn, but his quads are smaller than Dorian's, and Dorian has enough hardness and vascularity there to beat him. He is also showing the calf with better effect. Shawn is trying to copy him in this pose, and I really don't get why he would do that. He doesn't have nearly big enough calves nor teardrop to match him. And Kevin is doing whatever he does, a side variation, and I think he is a third place finisher in this pose. Let's go to the Symmetry Round, and this one will be interesting for you Shawn Ray fans. When we see the scorecards, you will really be kinda confused. But let's see. In front relaxed, it's Dorian 100%. Even if his gut, if you want to call it that, is more visible, so are Shawn's super small structure and long torso. He doesn't really look all that aesthetic there from this angle, where he looks thin also. Kevin is bigger and wider than Shawn, so he has to be second. We can see the side relax, but the order remains the same. Damn, and the rear relaxed. Dorian is taking no prisoners and is crushing Kevin without mercy. Just look at how defined his back looks and how big and chunky his calves are. Kevin looks good though, and in fact, in direct comparison with Shawn, he murders him. Bigger structure, better taper, and better hamstring, if you will. Conditioning is on comparable levels, so there are no savings for Shawn Ray. This will wrap up for prejudging. To sum it up, I've got Shawn Ray in first place in the front double biceps, then Kevin, then Dorian, then in the front lat sprint I've got Dorian, then Kevin, then Shawn, in the side chest the same, in the back double biceps I've got Dorian, then Shawn, then Kevin, in the rear lat sprint I've got Dorian, then Kevin, then Shawn, the same for the side triceps, and in the abs and thighs I've got Dorian first, Shawn second, and Kevin third. As for the symmetry round, for the front, side, and rear legs, it's always Dorian first, Kevin second, and Shawn third. This concludes part 1. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel if you don't want your sister to be raped. Bye bye.